Welcome to Nightlight. Step away from the mainstream and gather around as we enlighten the world and our realities and travel this cosmic journey we call life. Join us as we share with you and provide that beacon that can guide us all to a better way. Explore with us as we examine a metaphysical montage of spiritual insights, covering everything from the mundane to the magical, UFOs to unicorns, and everything in between. This is a time of awakening, of sharing and evolving, of spreading our wings and soaring on the cosmic breath of creation. Come and join with other light-minded spirits as we weave our lights together to seek understanding, enlightenment, and with a little luck, some wisdom. This is Nightlight, a reminder that you are never alone.
Welcome, everybody, to what I think is going to be an enlightening and inspirational show. At least it is for me. We're going to be talking today about the mystery tradition of miraculous conception, Mary and the lineage of virgin births. And I have the author with me, Marguerite Mary Rigoglioso. Hope I didn't mess that up too much. This is an amazing book. I've read it now twice, and every time I've read it, I've come away with more thoughts, more inspiration, more questions, and more inspiration, to be honest with you. This book explains how Mary was born into a lineage of powerful women who cultivated and passed on the ability to consciously conceive elevated beings. It includes a complete translation of the infancy Gospel of James and reveals the hidden codes it contains relating to the practice of miraculous conception. And it shows how Mary was trained and initiated in the womb mysteries and reveals the esoteric talents she used to conceive Jesus and much, 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 much more. Marguerite is an amazingly talented and gifted lady. She is author of several books and is the founder of Seven Sisters Mystery School, a world-renowned teacher of sacred knowledge and the foremost authority on the history of virgin birth. A trusted mentor to people on healing and spiritual paths, she draws on her decades-long research and experiences with Mother Mary and Mary Magdalene to help uncover their hidden timeless teachings and apply them to our present-day needs. She's an award-winning author of several books, including The Secret Life of Mother Mary, Divine Feminine Power for Personal Healing and Planetary Awakening, and The Mystery Tradition of Miraculous Conception, Mary and the Lineage of Virgin Births. I think what's so amazing about her work is it answers questions that all of us most probably have had growing up and going through whatever religious training or experiences we've had. The book makes the characters real instead of just somebody flat in a book and you don't know if they were real or not. By the time you finished reading this book and probably the others as well, you realize that these were real people. They had real experiences, and they were coming through a time that was miraculous for sure. And it beefs up. It puts meat on the bones that the Bible gives you, but it goes so much further than that. It digs in where whoever put the Bible together decided to leave things out because they had an agenda of some sort or another. So please check out the book. It is an amazing book. And as we start talking about it, you're going to be as curious as I was, even going through it the second time, as to the material that she brings forth. Welcome to the show, Marguerite.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Barbara.
Well, I think one of the things that in going through the book, almost after every section, you remind people that you have the Seven Sisters mystery school that you have put together. And just so people understand that we're not dealing with age-old, dusty concepts. We're dealing with real live things that are going on today. And your mystery school is one of them. You want to tell us a little about your mystery school before we get into your book?
Yes, Seven Sisters Mystery School is at this point a very large repository of many teachings, presentations, articles I've written, everything that I've done since founding it in 2012. And it is meant to be a place where people can live the ancient mysteries in a modern way for our future evolution. So, for example, I have the Mary and Magdalene priestess training that we just completed our first year, and we will be enrolling again in the summer for the fall for September 2025. And that's a way that people can take some of the material from these books and really absorb it, really experience it as something lived and present for themselves. It's a way to really help people, women especially, to crack their consciousness open to, what others call multidimensionality, so that we can understand what is it to be a Mary, what is it to be a Magdalene, because these great women, these great masters were representatives of this whole priestess lineage. And I know that we could get more into that. So, I've got that coming up and numerous other things. And also, if people really want to start having a lived experience with Mother Mary and Mary Magdalene, I have guided meditations that are associated for free, that are associated with each chapter of the latest book, The Secret Life of Mother Mary. And I know you're going to be putting those links in your show notes. So I really highly invite people to take advantage of that. People have written to me about how meaningful these meditations were to either get them to meet the Marys or get them to go deeper with the Marys, or, just take it at whatever level they're at right now and just go deeper.
Well, I think that what you share and what you offer people is so important. I think if somebody has just a biblical background, they think that Mary was, a young child, excuse me, a young child that suddenly an angel stood in front of her and said, "You're going to have a baby." And that is not the case.
No.
And what I found, you reminded me in the book, I guess I saw it the first time, but didn't totally understand it. She was not the first person to ever have this kind of experience. She came from, there's a whole lineage in her family of, she was the result of a miraculous conception herself.
Yes.
And let's talk a little bit about how it came down to her, because there were several generations before her that were virginal births, I guess a better way to put it.
Yes. Her mother, Anne, was a divine birth priestess. And we know that through the infancy gospel of James, that Mother Mary was conceived without any male actor at all. And of course, before them is Sarah in the Hebrew Bible, who miraculously conceives Isaac without any male actor at all as well. And there are others around them. There's Elizabeth, who may be Anne's sister. She's related to Anne and Mary. She divinely conceived John the Baptist, right? And then there are indications that Mary Magdalene's conception or, work with Jesus had to do with conceiving one or more children in special ways as well. So this is something that the veil is really coming off of now as we're exploring into this work.
Well, that and the fact that she was trained in the temple up to the time that she was 12 years old.
Yeah.
And I don't recall any place in the Bible that it says that.
No. Again, that's in the infancy gospel of James, which is considered an apocryphal gospel, which is, it's not considered official in the Roman Catholic Church, although in the Eastern Orthodox Church, they hold it in a different way. And that said, it is the basis of many of the paintings in cathedrals and churches in Europe, going back hundreds of years. It's the basis of sacred art, by the likes of Titian and others. So it was floating around as a gospel. It was held near and dear to the people's heart, even though the Roman Catholic Church rejected it. But it tells us that Mother Mary was from the beginning, she was raised in a special way. And as soon as she could walk at 6 months old, she was taken, her feet never touched the ground again. And she was fed special foods by her mother. She was kept in her mother's bedroom sanctuary so that she didn't have any disturbing influences. She was tended by the priestesses of the temple who would come and do various procedures, with her, teachings and so forth. So that when she was 3 years old, she was able to go to the temple and be taken by those priestesses, presumably, for the rest of her time until she conceived Jesus at 12 years old. And so we would assume, I talk about evidence that she was engaged in learning how to accomplish divine birth while she was in the temple, learning from these priestesses that there were lineages of these women that went, even beyond Anne, Sarah, Elizabeth, and so forth.
Well, look at Sarah. Sarah was quite old when she conceived.
Yeah.
And apparently, I learned a new word, and that's the parthenogenetic. Never did not know what that meant until I had to look it up. So it appears that it isn't actually just this group of people, that the element of virgin births has come through time as something that has been quite common among a lot of societies. So that for the Bible to put it out there that it was miraculous, that they almost make it seem as though this is the only one that's ever happened like this. And when you step back and you realize that there's a whole lineage of priestesses that have gone on through time, and even in Judaism, they had temple priestesses. It's not uncommon.
Yeah.
So that, did the priests in the temple know what she was being groomed for?
Well, that's the curious thing. The infancy gospel of James makes it look like, on the one hand, they did, because the main priest there at the time was Zechariah, who was the partner of Elizabeth, who we just talked about. He does, on the one hand, the text makes it look like he does understand it. On the other hand, the text makes it look like he does not understand it. So there could have been some scribal editing around that to sort of confuse it, or rewrite it, reword it, cast doubts. But I think that they all knew what was going on, and they had to. It was part of their mission, was to bring forth starseed children. Elizabeth bringing forth John the Baptist, Anne bringing forth Mary bringing forth Jesus, etc.
Well, they said in one place that normally when a birth takes place, when conceiving is done this way, is that it's usually a woman that's born, but that to have a Holy Spirit involved brings forth a male child.
Yeah, because of the chromosome.
With Jesus and John being almost the same generation, One wonders if there was ever a wonder of who was to be the Redeemer and who is not.
Oh, I think there was, even back at that time, John had followers. John was a teacher. He was a Baptist. He was initiating people. And that is why he is quoted as saying, "No, there is one who is greater than I, who will come after me." Because he did have those followers who thought that he was something of a redeemer, a salvific figure, certainly a great teacher.
Well, when we talk about the traditions and all of the things that pointed to Mary as being the one that carried the Savior, in weaving the curtain for the temple, it was interesting at how each of the women that had been chosen were given a different color thread, and she alone got the red and the purple.
Yeah, they were casting lots to see what would be the role of these 8 women who were gathered together for this divine birth ritual, as I describe it in the mystery tradition of miraculous conception. Again, going with the textual information in the infancy gospel of James, that they gathered these 8 women from this particular lineage, and that they were involved in what was so-called weaving. But in fact, that was just a metaphor for a much deeper process that they were involved in, which was the quantum weaving of the divine child in one or more of their wombs. And there's an implication that actually Elizabeth was involved in the very same ritual. And it may be that Elizabeth conceived John when Mary conceived Jesus. So the idea that there were threads, it seems to be because both she and Elizabeth were working with the red thread. And it seems like that's an indicator that, okay, these are the women who are going to conceive divinely. These are the ones who are supposed to take it all the way through. And some of the other women may, in the 8, like spokes of a wheel or like a spinning wheel, may have been supporters to them in this group ritual. But those signs indicated, oh, these are the 2 women who are going to conceive the divine avatars.
What was a little confusing to me is that they said that they were going to weave a new material, a new curtain for the Holy of Holies.
Right.
Now, weaving requires a loom.
Yeah.
Were they spinning the thread to go into the loom? Is that because everybody went back to their own place to do their work with the threads? So they obviously all didn't have a loom, or did they? I mean, it was a little confusing to me.
I think it's metaphor. I think it's metaphor of the esoteric process that was the yoga that they were doing together. And yes, there was the creation of the Holy of Holies, which was the veil that separated the most holy part of the temple from the rest. And that was a sacred undertaking in and of itself. What they were making were signs and symbols of the universe, the cosmos on this. But really, what she was weaving was her DNA, I think.
Yeah. Now that makes sense.
So I discussed that quite a bit.
And the other thing that made me curious, they kept saying that she was fed like a dove.
Yes.
Special food,
this is a multifaceted reference that I talk about extensively in the mystery tradition of miraculous conception. But briefly, being fed like a dove means that she was in the lineage of the dove priestesses that would also connect her as one of the Pleiades, that the Pleiades, who were known as 7 dove sisters, were starseed mothers of humanity. They also had divine conceptions that led to much of the human race being populated. So when it refers to Mary as being like a dove, it's putting her right in that lineage of these star women who are able to come in and out of this dimension, bring advanced beings in and out of this dimension. And also being fed like a dove means that there was a special diet going on. And it may also have involved sacred medicines of some kind. That is something that I talk about quite a bit, that in order to be able to do these types of miraculous works, they may have had to have been in an extreme altered state of consciousness, and they may have needed these sacred medicines that were proliferating all over the ancient world in the sacred mystery traditions.
Yeah, it just, I'm not saying that it was hallucinogenics, but I am saying.
I am.
Oh, okay.
I am. And, I mean, William Henry would say that as well. He's
Yeah.
a very fine researcher and teacher. And, many have been saying that the Last Supper was a hallucinogenic ceremony, that it wasn't, that was just the last of many suppers that they'd had together that were altered state journeys and experiences they would have. And this is how Jesus taught them all, that he was able to expand their consciousness. And the Marys were part of this because they would create these substances, these mixtures. That's why they are called the miraphors, the myrrh carriers. That's also a code word, most likely, for the priestesses of hallucinogenic recipes. And they would help people awaken and initiate. They would help their souls cross out of their body after death in a beneficial way, all through the support of these sacred medicines.
Well, when you get right down to it, the element of tapping into making connection with the spirit that's carried within to open that portal to the divine is definitely something that takes a lifetime of practice.
That's right, because of the type of soul she was tapping into and the consciousness with which it was done and the understanding of the origin, of this soul as a star being. These are layers and levels that put her at a much deeper place than the average woman, conceiving a child. So she was involved in deep yogas throughout many lifetimes, according to Sri Kaleshwar, developing herself in this way and developing her yogic womb powers to be able to bring forth one such as Jesus to help humanity.
Well, when you understand that the body is energy, and if you can work with the energy, channel the energy, and enhance the energy, then magic happens for sure.
That's right. We're talking about multidimensional understanding, multidimensional reality, working with the quantum realm, if you will.
Why would then the patriarchs of what became the Bible, why would they diminish and diminish and diminish and diminish the knowledge of the power that was there in the women?
Well, because patriarchy is a kind of an infiltration of the human family on the part of energies, entities, beings that are really not helpful to humanity, but are sort of parasitic. And so what we call, the social structure of patriarchy and all that goes along with it, it's a power over system that infiltrates into the masculine energy, takes it, distorts it, and then disturbs the peace between the masculine and the feminine. And so what happens is an out of balance masculinized structure that then doesn't want, because it's being used by these interdimensional beings, if you will, they do not want anything else that's going to interfere with their plan and their hijack. So there go all the indigenous people. There go the women who are carrying womb knowledge. There go men who are carrying, the knowledge of the deep mysteries and balance and care of the feminine. There go all of these things. There go nature. There goes nature. So this has been part of an attack on humanity that was understood by the Holy Family, if we will call them that, which you can understand if you read the Gnostic Gospels carefully, and you understand, oh my goodness, they came in with a mission because they knew what humanity was up against. It's very clearly described. The entities that there were, they call them the archons and so forth, and they were here to help awaken human consciousness out of our slumber, back into our angelic light body, and so that we could turn things around on Earth, which had and has become a planet of a great deal of suffering. And we can try to pin it on patriarchy and say, oh, it's men's fault, but it isn't. It's a much larger interdimensional warfare that's been going on.
Well, you talk about the Magdalens and the Marys,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a difference. What is the difference?
Mm-hmm. So the Marys are priestesses of divine womb power, intense yogic womb power, divine love, the heart energy, and divine wisdom. They are Sophia-coded women who are prophetesses and those who carry the codes of, the healing and the awakening of humanity. The Magdalens are related because they work together, and Mary Magdalene joined both lineages, but the Magdalens, we could see the Magdalene title basically means guardian watchtower. So the Magdalens are like these positive watcher priestesses who care about and help humanity, guardian humans and mentor them and so forth. And so there's just a particular energy with that in the case of Mary Magdalene, we see is she's more like a bridger type person, where Mother Mary is already the resolved Sophia who's achieved her ascension. And Mary Magdalene is the sister that is taking our hand and helping us to have our full awakening in this lifetime. So they're related, they very much overlap, but there's just a meaning to the Mary term, which means love, essentially, in the ancient Egyptian, from which the term Miriam comes, Mary, the original term, and then a guardian watchtower energy of the Magdalens.
So, whoopsie, I've lost your sound.
Oh,
you're back. You're back.
No, I just went quiet.
Oh, I am so new to all of this stuff that, when something happens, it's like, what did I touch? So I think what's fascinating to me is that this sisterhood is something that was present in Egypt. It doesn't originate here. It manifests here.
Yeah.
So that the womb magic is something that has been around forever. And, these days it might come in handy.
That's right.
Well, when you look at what's happening with society and everything, it definitely could come in handy.
Yeah.
But it's the element of love, but love with power, not submissive love, but love with power. And I don't think most people give consideration to the fact that that's what she was.
Yeah.
And I thought it was, you made it so real when she reached the age of 12, and the fact that they didn't want her in the temple because if she started to menstruate, it would mess everything up.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I also talk about the fact that she may not have been menstruating. She may have been on such a special diet that she didn't need to menstruate in order to purify herself monthly. That is something that may have gone with this lack of menstruation, may have been part of the priestesshood of divine birth, because there was, they were already in a purified state. They weren't having to clear and cleanse themselves on a monthly basis.
Well, athletes, especially gymnasts, the athletic team I know from the United States, a lot of those girls stopped menstruating because of their activity and because of their, maybe not so much their food, but certainly their physical activities were so stressful that their bodies didn't menstruate. So if she was involved in yoga, then that could possibly suggest that that was part of the reason why she didn't. But I thought I had to chuckle about when they were looking for somebody who would be her protector. They asked for all of the was it widowed men?
Yeah, the widowers. Yeah, and Joseph was one of them.
Not enthusiastic about it either.
No, he felt somewhat embarrassed because he was older, presumably, who knows how old, at least in his 40s, and she was anywhere between 12 and 16 years old. And so he really didn't initially want to be involved in this, but all the signs led to him being the one who was supposed to be her guardian, her caretaker, and so forth. So, but not her husband. I talk about the fact that these partnerships between these women and the men were not conjugal relationships. They were not sexual.
Yeah, but he dropped her off at home and said, "I'll be back." And he didn't come back for months.
That's right. And here's the thing. It may well be that this is where that gospel was edited. And Ali Cattouse does a really good job talking about that in Mary and Christian Women, I think. She looks at the fact that probably the oldest version of this gospel, the infancy gospel of James, where all of this is elaborated, was revealed that she was still in the temple, that she actually never left the temple, that she conceived through temple processes, temple protection, and so forth. So, this is where we really have to do that critical analysis of what's in the writing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I attempt to do in both of my books on Mary.
I think that what got me was even when the priest at the temple said it's okay, he still was not enthusiastic about all this at all.
Yeah, he had to be a little bit more than nudged into it. He had to be kind of threatened in a way, threatened into it. Like, look, this is the sign of God. You had the dove come out of your staff.
Yes.
There we go with that dove again, right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
so what happens to Joseph after the birth?
Well, he shapes up.
Yeah.
He's given divine dreams and so forth, and realizes, okay, this is serious, this is real, and I need to support and protect this woman. And he did.
But we lose track of Jesus. I mean, they went to Egypt.
Yeah, well, we lose track of Mary too, for the most part. I mean, she's around a little bit more in the Gnostic Gospels where it talks about that she was always walking with Jesus. She, Mary Magdalene, and Mother Mary's sister. So yeah, Joseph drops off the face of the earth in terms of the texts. Is it because he was old enough to actually die? These are these great gaps that we have in these texts.
But then I know that it's said that Jesus, before he took on the cloak, so to speak, traveled a lot, and there is physical evidence that he visited a temple in Tibet. There's actually a temple where he signed the guest book, so to speak.
Yeah, India as well.
So he was around.
Yeah.
But not a carpenter. He never seemed to take on a vocation of any sort other than, of course, talking with priests and telling them where they were wrong.
Yeah, exactly. When he was a child, that's an interesting gospel. Yeah, we don't really have any description of him wielding the hammer or whatever, the mallet. So I think that he pretty early on went into his ministry, and his ministry involved learning. He wasn't just an automatic sage. He did have to be tempered. He had to be fed also. He had to go and meet with masters and guides in the East. That's what those Eastern traditions are starting to tell us now. And this is only now being revealed in the very incipient stages to the public. But it's all there. Sri Kaleshwar, the late Hindu saint, talks about all of this, and his ashram in Laytonville, California, the Divine Mother Center, they're very much involved in talking about Jesus in India. And there are, other books about this. So it's giving us a whole different picture of what is needed, even of the divine avatar who comes in. How does one raise to the level that they're destined to do, but don't have those abilities from day one?
So your school, virgins today are hard to find. So what do you teach in your school about becoming like Mary?
Well, what I teach is that when we talk about virginity, we're really talking about sovereignty, supreme self, groundedness, and wholeness. The coming together of the masculine and feminine within us, coming together of all dualities, getting resolved within us. That's part of the great mystery that I help people understand and take them through to some degree through some of the ceremonies that we do. Even online, there's quite a bit that we can do together. So it's really about not turning women into celibates or what have you. It's about helping women to awaken the light within that Mary is but a reflection of. It's helping us to understand how Mary and Magdalene and the other Marys and the other Magdalenes are just awakened beings who are shining the light on us so that we can see ourselves. So everything we learn about in this Mary and Magdalene priestess training, for example, are keys to unlock doors. And so we go through a series of mystical, esoteric doors about how the Marys very much relate to this world, even through their connection with nature, for example, all the way up to their more Mother Mary's more esoteric connection with the unicorn, which of course is an interdimensional being that we don't really understand from 3D except in stories and fables. But once we start awakening our consciousness, we do understand oh, this is a being that's at the depths of this fifth dimensional and beyond realm where we are all wanting to awaken our consciousness to. Okay. So there are many steps along the way that women can go through, that I take them through. But again, it's not about worshiping Mary or even becoming Mary or Magdalene. It's becoming the Sophia that we already are within, getting everything else out of the way and shining that light, really activating what some call the rainbow light body. All right. So there are many, many different ways. And I take a section of doorways to help women with that process of awakening their consciousness.
Yeah, and coming into your own power. I mean, for so long, women have been treated as second-class citizens, especially religiously.
Yeah, this is about the reawakening of the feminine power, or the reconnecting with the feminine power that has been cut off, veiled, hijacked, distorted by the patriarchal structure and the beings that govern it. And the restoration of the feminine side of God, the restoration of our understanding of the feminine side of God, is critical to this. And our understanding of feminine female powers related to the womb and other yogic abilities related to love, related to seeing and serving as oracles, is all part of this.
It seems that if you go into history, the oracles, especially at Delphi, were all women.
Yes, they were. And they're, I mean, there are other oracle places in the ancient world, yes, where there were priests who were oracles. But by and large, what we have in the record is that it's the women, because of their extra porousness, their sensitivity, right?
Yeah.
Their womb, but nothing less than their womb.
So it seems to me that today, especially, that wisdom is so needed, and yet it's hard to find today.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure that there are people out there that have that energy, but it's rare.
Well, that's what we're all moving toward. And that's why, I do work with the women in the training to assist them with their personal healing, their emotional healing, and their development of certain skills, and the development of their virtues, which is, all of these things have to weave together to bring us into our wisdom. And so that we are acting on the three-dimensional level from a wise place, and so that we are also accessing the vast body of knowledge that could be called the Akashic records. That's wisdom, right? And doing it all through, with, for, and by love. That's the ultimate purpose.
You talk about Mary consciousness, but that isn't limited to just women, is it?
No, it isn't. No, I mean, it's a consciousness that's open to everyone. That's why I really call it the Sophia Christos consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
Because
more appropriate, yeah.
It's gender balanced, and it's open to everyone.
Yeah, because while women have the upper hand to a degree, but it would seem to me that it would be of great benefit to a man to go through this process as well.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this is all about clearing and healing and relieving ourselves of our emotional burdens, relieving ourselves of the burdens of hyper masculinity or hyper femininity, those kinds of things. It's about that inner bridal chamber. Ultimately, that's one of the Gnostic sacraments that is talked about quite a bit in these ancient texts. And it was the greatest sacrament that the Sophia Christos mission brought to the planet. And it's still happening today. We are still aiming to balance and unite ourselves within, have the inner marriage, because that also is what leads to wisdom, being able to act with wisdom. So there are layers, there are layers to this mission, this ministry that the Marys, the Magdalens, Yeshua were part of back 2,000 years ago. And they are not the only ones. It's not unique to their mission. It's not unique to them, this mission, but we do know about it by virtue of the Catholic Church and, the Christian Church. So there is some way in which that energy has been preserved, even though it's been distorted at the same time. And again, that's why I'm doing the work I am, and many other scholars and people are doing the work we are, to try to set the record straight.
When you get right down to it, the Gnostic texts are, of course, are spectacular.
Yeah.
There's also the, isn't there a chapter, book about Mary that was at one time in the Bible that was taken out? The Gospel of Mary?
Yeah. Well, again, those are the apocryphal Gospels that were never put in to the official Christian Church, Catholic Church, but they were circulating in antiquity before the consolidation and creation of the Catholic Church. So they were documents that were written down by oracles and sages and the holy people that were working in that milieu of Nazarenism, of Essene teachings, the Therapeutae as part of that, and other groups that are named. It was a vital and alive time when the Holy Family came to the planet and in that location. So that's what we are moving toward, and we are aiming to restore that mystery knowledge.
Well, throughout history, there's always been a female deity.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's Sophia, whether it's Isis, whether you go back further and further and further in time, there's always been a female spirit. And then we come to Mary. Is it the same spirit generation after generation coming into play here, trying to work with people to understand that kind of magic? Or was she just a one-shot?
No, it's the same energy coming in different cultures, different looks, different languages. And Mother Mary is the example of a being who had many human lifetimes, who then was able to make her final ascension, meaning her unification with the goddess head. So she is now one with the great Sophia, if you wish to call her that. And she can also operate as her personality that we know her of as Mary. So she can work one-on-one, and she can work in this big universal way. And so that's part of the mystery, how she can be human and divine at the same time. What does that mean? And what does that mean for all of us who are looking to restore? Many of us are looking to restore our true angelic nature. So these are role models. These are path leaders for us.
So with that understanding, could she come again?
Well, she's here.
Well,
the thing is, here's my understanding of the so-called second coming of anything, Jesus or whoever. It's about it being within us. We are the collective second coming.
Okay.
And we are the collective Mary. We are the collective Magdalene. That is a great mystery, one in many, many in one, unity and diversity, diversity and unity. This is a Pleiadian concept as well. It's not about a being who's going to beam down and be like, hey, I'm saving you all. It's about us becoming or awakening to the fact that we are that being and always have been. This is the great mystery that is unfolding. And this is what I help women to experience and men in other contexts, in other teachings and so forth. It's what I'm aiming to live in my own life. It's a daily practice.
So it's almost a level of awareness or consciousness that one can ascend to through a practice of prayer, meditation, and practice.
That's right.
Practice being underlined, because understanding a philosophy and not living it is worthless.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And, we have to walk our talk more and more and more, those of us who are doing this work. Otherwise, we'll see the consequences pretty immediately. If you're out of balance, out of alignment, it's not going to work for you. So everybody is really being led to do our own healing, do our own practices so that we can have these awakenings, so that we can really amplify our light body or unveil it or awaken it, what have you, so that we can walk with a multidimensional consciousness and create on earth from that place. That's what the Sophia Christos mission is all about, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, it makes perfect sense. It really does. And, you're not looking to overturn governments or anything. You're just looking to enhance the human spirit, which is far more important.
That's right, because the government structures are an expression of the function or dysfunction that's going on within the individuals and the cultures. And so as we do this personal work, then our external structures shift and they become more wholesome and healthy. And we're on this reverse trajectory back to Lemuria, on a new rung of the spiral. After a very dark time, some people, and I feel I'm one of them, feel that we have turned the corner out of the Kali Yuga, that very, very negative, difficult period of humanity, and we're on the upswing now. But with that, we're still being invited to do all the levels of healing and maturing that are needed. And this is where the Marys come in. They're here as guides, as mentors. They're recognizable metaphors and figures for us who I do feel had real, actual lives. They walked the planet because they needed to show humans that it can be done in the human body.
Yeah.
Right? So Jesus, the same thing. They're not just from on high. They're like, oh, let's go down. Let's take the parachute and let's walk among and be them, know what it's like, and help give them the codes.
And I think if you take it outside of religion and you put it into spirit, then it's open to everyone.
It absolutely is. They are just one of, as I was saying earlier, numerous groups that have been around for thousands of years to assist humanity with this pivotal awakening that many people feel is happening now after a very long time. They provide really good help, really good instructions. They're recognizable by so many of the people on the planet by virtue of all the colonization and the Christianization. And, as negative as that was, it does give a little bit of a common thread that we can then all hold on to, but then go deeper with who these people really were. Like, take away all the programming, the negative programming that has them either look passive or, impossibly divine, so that we can't even identify with them at all. No, I mean, that's why I'm doing the work that I'm doing, and others are doing the same. How they are just one grouping that can be very helpful to people, but there are other groupings in other cultures and, places in the world.
Well, I truly hope that more men take advantage of your material, because it would make it a gentler world.
Yeah, well, I think that's the direction we're going in. I think everybody's awakening now. Everybody has the opportunity. For many people, it looks like a lot of crisis, illness, financial disturbance, all this and that. But there's a bigger picture that's going on if we can move into the self-healing, and we can understand, oh, this is just the awakening bell, right? This series of crises that I'm in are my awakening bell. And they're often not fun. We don't enter through fun and games most of the time right now.
Well,
pain.
My outlook is that when those crises come, it's an indication that I've grown enough so that I'm capable of doing much more.
That's right.
That's why I have these difficulties. It's like,
yeah,
okay, I wasn't growing fast enough. Let's see if we can grow beyond this.
Yeah.
And it's a challenge, but if you look upon it that way, it's a very exciting challenge, because it means I've reached a point where I'm ready to go beyond this. So let's get beyond it. Let's figure out how to get there. And certainly meditation and prayer are a part of it.
Yes.
But also walking your talk is too.
Walking your talk, doing all the healing, be it talk therapy, be it somatic awakening, be it working with medicines to understand your journey in a different way and come to resolution, forgiveness, and so forth. Many, many different modalities can be employed in this healing and this awakening. And the Marys are right there with us. They are available if we ask them for assistance, signs, healings, things that we need to be fulfilled. We can ask them. And if it's in our greatest good, they will help us. So that's the other thing that's behind my books, especially The Secret Life of Mother Mary, the most recent book, is to work with them as masters, as guides, as healers, personally, and work with them as spiritual mentors.
Absolutely. I just noticed our time. I want you to please give out your Seven Sisters material and the classes that you're going to be giving again.
Okay. Yes. If people just go to sevensistersmysteryschool.com, the seven is spelled out SEVEN, you'll find everything there in terms of the Mary and Magdalene priestess training. And we'll be having a free offering with that coming up in July that we're working on right now. We also, and I know that you're going to have that link in your show notes for that registration page.
Yes.
We also have the book meditations for The Secret Life of Mother Mary. I know you're going to have that link as well. And there are many other things that we're doing at Seven Sisters Mystery School, and ways that people can get involved and receive from the wealth of the library that we have of teachings, as well as ongoing live events, teaching and mentoring circles, and Mary and Magdalene experiences each month, and so forth through our Inner Sanctum Temple. So we'll get you the link for that as well.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being here today.
You're welcome.
We're going to have to go back into this and certainly do your current book.
Oh yeah, well, sure, anytime.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, Barbara, and for the work that you're doing.
My pleasure. Totally, totally. Take care now.
Bye.
Bye-bye.